camera off, you haven't entered into foamroll.com. No, you're still at resistancebandtraining.com, but I thought I would share with you guys a little struggle I had and how this thing has really helped me out in getting back some level of function, and how the Thunderband and what I call assisted stretching has really made a big difference. Hope all you guys are doing well today. I want to share with you a little secret that I didn't let out for the last several months. I've been struggling with an injury, abductor tightness, and for years I've never had a problem with it, but over the last year to 6 months I started getting a lot of stiffness into my adductors and up into my pubic bone and lower abdominals. After a period of time of training during the summer, I eventually got to a point where I couldn't walk any more comfortably, and I was at the point where running wasn't even possible. So I started searching for answers like a lot of you will do when you start struggling with injuries, and I couldn't figure out why, except that I thought maybe I had actually torn something. Well, after talking to several of my professional friends, it became apparent to me that there was something I wasn't doing with band stretching that I thought I was doing, and that was I wasn't releasing a lot of the soft tissues the way I thought I was. So I started one day messing around with the foam roll, but I didn't mess around with it in the traditional way. I didn't go ahead and just hit my lateral hips and thighs and hamstrings and calves, which is what I normally would do. I went after it and I started looking at my adductors a little bit more. But more importantly, when I was doing it, I wasn't doing it in a bent knee position. I started doing it in a straight knee position. Let me show you what I was talking about. I got down here and I started putting it in a straight leg position. Now I know a lot of you down there are saying, hey, well, I do that all the time. Well, I wasn't. What I was doing a lot of bent knee position. Now, what I was finding was that did not create the same effect as a straight knee position. When I went to a straight knee position, the pain was incredible. I had so much restrictions through that area, I couldn't believe it. And for about 3 weeks, I just kept pounding on that area to try to free it up and loosen it up. Thank goodness it's starting to get better. I got a ways to go yet because I've had a lot of chronic pain through that area for a while. The inflammation and that is going to take a while to come down. But you know what? At least I'm back doing a little bit of jogging. I can do a little uphill running. I can also go ahead and do some band running, which is interesting because the band allows me to eliminate the ground reaction forces which were feeding up through the leg, feeding up into the pelvis, and that was what was creating some of my discomfort. Also, you have to remember that the adductors are a stabilizer during running. So if you can go ahead and take away some of the need for stabilization, which is where ground reaction forces come into play, then you can go ahead and potentially take some stress off your body. That's why people like running in bands, is because bands kind of slow down ground reaction forces, ease them up a little bit, makes it a little bit more tolerable to train because you don't have to absorb all those ground reaction forces. Well, that started me thinking, going, okay, well, if I can run in bands, then maybe I need to go ahead and use bands as an assistive device to train and mobilize my adductors a little bit more aggressively. And guess what? It was helping. So I want to show you a couple things that I did to free up this adductor tightness in case, number one, you're struggling with the same thing, but number two, if you're doing band stretching and you're not attacking this area, because you may not, because I hadn't showed you how to do it, you may want to consider doing this. Let me show you what I was working on. After an aggressive foam rolling series for about 10-15 minutes, I would go ahead and I would jump in, and I liked using the Thunderband because it was just a little bit heavier duty resistance, and it allowed me to really go ahead and lean into it. So what I did is I would just put myself in this position, and I would drop myself down and just start stretching my adductors in this fashion, just mobilizing. Now, I could go ahead, the nice thing about this was, as I dropped down, I could drive my hip into the band and make myself actually proprioceptively feel myself lengthening out, and then I could create simple little rotations, bending, anything I wanted to do, and it really helped me start mobilizing. The other thing I did is, if you notice, when I'm here, I kept that foot straight so that as I would drop down and start lengthening out, I was internally rotating as well through this hip. And that was something that I was not working on with bands. Now, what's really slick is by leaning into the band, I could go ahead and create a lot of different ways to lengthen. Now, it's still not perfect by any means, but it's definitely getting better. And you know what? I've started doing some more active assisted training. Matter of fact, in the morning, I would follow a routine that was foam rolling and then active mobilization. And then guess what? Now I come back and I still do my band stretching, but I would make sure that I band stretch in a little bit different fashion, and that I would make sure that I really emphasize the opposite muscles of my adductors, because I think what was happening was I was overstretching my adductors and I hadn't soft mobilized them, hadn't freed up the soft tissues, and as a result of that, I was getting some pressure up into my pelvis and my pubic bone, not because I wasn't flexible, because my myofascial structures weren't mobilized, and I was actually creating more tension on that area than I should be. You know, a lot of people say, hey, you can't stretch with thunder bands, and I normally would suggest no, you can't. It's not what you want to do. But you know what? If you have a thunder band and it's all you have, you definitely can stretch with it. Let me show you real quick before we head out of here for the weekend how to do this. And you can go ahead and just hook it on there. Now, because they're nice and wide, it works out pretty well. Now, granted, you got all this excess band, but you know what? You don't have to use it all. You can just put it back there, and you can still go ahead and work at using a thunder band to stretch out. So you can use all the movements. You just shorten it up, lock it out, and pull it down and stretch it. Push it across. I've actually found that the thunder band can be perfect for stretching. So you know what? If you have a thunder band, use it. Use it for stretching. It's not a big deal. It's a little bit longer. You're going to have to let some of the slack of the band go out to the side, but go ahead. Feel free to use the thunder band. So there you have it. Adductor tightness, foam rolling, some active assisted stretching with this assistance coming from the thunder band, and then get back into your passive overpressure stretching, and let's see if that sequence does pretty well. Now I will say this, if you got a ton of foam roll pain, you might want to back off the passive overpressure for a while, just work foam roll, get rid of a lot of that soft tissue pain, and then go ahead, come back to your stretching later on. Have a good one.